Lovely! Well, you never thought that would happen, did you?
No, we thought it was impossible. But suddenly, out of the blue, it happened, and we just had such a great reception for it. People were really rooting for us, you know? And of course, we adopted a child in the show. And suddenly, this has created a whole new avenue for us, without any spoilers. So we've got a new journey to start on now, which is so nice.
It is a phenomenon, this show, isn't it? It's just been well received right from day one.
Yes, it has. And there's a much-used word. People also are very humbled by... But actually, you know, we can't control that reception in that way. It's to do with people. And we are just so grateful that people get out of the show what we all sincerely get to.
But people get very involved as well.
They
because they write to you, they tell you their stories about living in the eras that obviously through the Call the Midwife has gone through.
Could I tell you something, just on that very subject? Last night, there was a story in our episode last night about domestic abuse. And on that very thing of writing, with my wife being the executive producer, she gets some letters back from people who've written into the show. And last night, we had a few letters, and we bawled our eyes out. Because some people, it's filling me up again, well, one particular person said, "Thank you so much, because that happened to me." And she said, "Thank you for showing that not only those things go on, but that you can break free from them. You can get out of them." And thank you.
And of course, it's set in the 60s, isn't it? Now?
Yes,
it's
it is.
62, the year I was born, which shows how long ago that was. But things were very different then as well, and you have to have that sort of in your mind at the time.
And it's difficult for somebody to extricate themselves from that situation. For women, what's so interesting about a show which is largely a woman's show, and rightly so, is that was the decade when the real challenges came in. And we didn't get to today with all of these, you know, with greater equality. We didn't get to where we were without those single people in those single relationships and marriages, just like my own mum, who began to say, "Oh, hang on, this isn't right."
Yeah. I mean, there was a very specific storyline about your mum that you did write into the show.
Well, we didn't. It didn't go literally, but I will tell you about that because it was very touching. And it's to do with the McGann brothers too. We actually had the oldest of the McGann brothers sadly died at birth. They were twins, and they were called Joseph and John. What most people don't know is my mum went through. She was a Call the Midwife girl. She was a 50s young mum, and her first pregnancy was unsuccessful. But she had a really traumatic experience because in those days, you didn't have what we have now where you could bury people, bury little kids with all the honours. They had to be put in someone else's coffin. And because Mum was very sick in hospital, they went in someone else and she didn't know where they'd gone.
That's terrible.
And she'd had such a bad time for many... Here
Would
I
that
go.
be 1950 something?
It's late 50s.
They buried those dead children in somebody else's coffin.
Yeah, and it was very kind because those people would have to agree. They'd say to let these little things go in with them, and the family would agree. And it would happen through the church with my mum, but she was never able to grieve. And astonishingly, right into the mid-90s, one day my mum is there and she says, "I've had enough of this. I need to find them." And she went to find them, and she found them. And she found the grave, and we have a plaque on the grave now.
That is
and
wonderful.
Our two oldest brothers. But what happened in Call the Midwife was we didn't tell that story, but as often happens with my brilliant wife, she diffuses all of these things into the stories, but they are part of real people's lives. And when I told our midwife advisor about the condition my mum had, my midwife advisor in the series burst into tears. She said, "We can fix that now. We can fix
That's
it."
one of the reasons why Call the Midwife, I think, is such an important programme, because I think if you don't learn from history, you're destined to repeat the same mistakes. And I think there are many people nowadays wouldn't even know about many of the issues that were facing women in the 50s and 60s. I think it's an important programme. So do viewers at home. You've been nominated for an NTA award.
Yes!
Again.
We get some pretty fabulous guests here on Loose Women. There's plenty more where that came from. Just click here to watch more interviews with a whole range of famous faces. And click here to subscribe. It's free, so you'd be silly not to, really.